Hello, I'm Steve Cassano, State Senator from the 4th District, Manchester, Glastonbury, Bolton, and Andover. And it's again a pleasure to be back for Focus on the 4th. As you may know, we bring in various guests from the district and talk about areas of interest, employment. And today we're going to be talking about a place in Glastonbury called HABCO. HABCO, if I was to define it myself with my own ignorance, I would say really focuses on helicopter parts and machinery. And so I have two guests from HABCO today. First is Brian Montanari. Brian is a president and CEO. He started the company. He has a long history of doing innovative things, I think is the best way to look at it as I read your background. He's legendary in the whole field of lean. Doing lean things lean is one of the advances actually in technology and in business today as to how do I make things last, how do I make them the cheapest, and how do I still make them the best. And this is a company that does that well. I met Brian and Paul at HABCO in Glastonbury and had a tour, and I have to say, I just said to Brian, I've been to over 100 aerospace businesses in the region. Everybody seems to make a part, but this was a rather unique visit because you make multiple parts for various parts of the helicopter. And so tell me a little about how you got into HABCO and why you got into this business.
HABCO's been around for about 45 years. We're actually in our 45th year right now. I started at HABCO in 2007, so just about 8 years ago. Came on board as the chief operating officer working for the family that started the business, and was fortunate enough about almost 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, for Paul and I to be part of the investment group that was able to acquire the business from Kristen and from her family. And we've been on a wonderful, wonderful ride ever since. Business is growing quite a bit, and what we focus on is both commercial and military products, fixed and rotary. Nothing that actually flies in the aircraft, but all parts that maintain the aircraft when it's in for service. Wide, diverse types of products where some things you can hold in your hand and some products we make are the size of a 3-car garage. So it's really a unique opportunity to have to be as flexible as possible. You mentioned lean. Lean is core to who we are because we have to be flexible, we have to be nimble, and especially in the state of Connecticut with our two of our top 3 customers being in Connecticut, being Pratt and Whitney and Sikorsky. Being close by them, being flexible and responsive is really what's core to us.
You mentioned Pratt and Sikorsky. Do you think the people of Connecticut today understand the significance and the dependence, quite honestly, I believe, that Connecticut has on companies like Pratt, Sikorsky, submarine base?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's so much aviation history here in Connecticut. We talk about being an aerospace alley with all of the companies that support the large OEMs, in particular Sikorsky and Pratt and Whitney. And there's so much of our talent base that's focused on this industry. It's actually really exciting to be a part of it.
I've talked to several workers that decided, well, it's time to move out. They moved to North Carolina. They were back in 2 years. They found it was a different setting, and in the aerospace industry particularly, they didn't feel they were in the aerospace industry.
Sure.
Do you find that, experience that?
Well, we've been contacted multiple times over the last 8 years that I've been part of HABCO to look at moving out of state down to South Carolina and other places. And as attractive as it is sometimes from a labor point of view, from a talent perspective, Connecticut has a rich talent of employees. It's difficult now as we're growing to find new skilled labor. But the partnership with having Pratt and Whitney 5 miles down the road and Sikorsky a short drive down the street makes it super important for us to stay in Connecticut and be part of the fabric of these 2 large OEMs.
Paul, you're the financial wizard.
Yeah. I don't know about wizard, but
and the way the company's going, you do pretty well there. Tell me, what's it like, the variety? First of all, the variety of companies that you work with, whether it's a Pratt or a Sikorsky or whatever, everything has to be different. It's not just the same sales form like at a grocery store or something like that.
Right.
I assume you're involved with negotiations and a whole bunch of things in the process. Tell me a little about your partner of HABCO.
Well, you know, as you mentioned, I'm the chief financial officer, and so we handle all the payments to our vendors, and we handle all the collections from our customers, and you know, one of the things that's great about our industry and being a part of Connecticut is we don't have, knock on wood, we don't have any bad debts. And that's very unique in my history. I've never worked at a different company that has had no bad debts. When you work with companies like Sikorsky and Pratt Whitney, they value their supply chain, and we're part of that supply chain, and we value our supply chain. And so we make sure that our supply chain is taken care of, so we pay them on time and accurately. And sure, there's the normal negotiation that goes on, but you know, we were fortunate to hire a vice president of supply chain this past year, and you know, one of the things that he's helped us with is to make sure that we look at our supply chain as a partnership. And I think that that's another part of being in Connecticut that's fantastic, is that literally every company that we deal with, I mean, I think it's about 70% of our vendor payments are paid to companies in Connecticut. And so it's a very local industry. And the reality is, if you know, you're known by your reputation. So if we treat our vendors properly, they'll treat us properly, and you know, everyone gets paid reasonably, and hopefully no one has any bad debts, and you can prosper and take care of your employees.
Let's talk a little about that supply chain. I think it's probably one of the best hidden secrets in Connecticut. I know I can drive through East Hartford, Manchester, and many Middletown, Meriden, and there are machine shops everywhere, and everybody seems to make, quote, a widget. Right. And that widget goes to somebody like you or Pratt, whatever it might be, whether it's direct or indirectly. I think it's probably the most underrated and undervalued part of our economy, and I know they're struggling to get qualified people as well. Are you seeing that, and is that the same supply chain that we're talking about, the guys that run those small shops on the side streets in these towns?
Absolutely, absolutely, and you know, you're only, it's like the link of a chain. You're only as good as your weakest link, and so part of lean and part of the quality issues that we have to build into our product, we have to make sure our supply chain does the same thing. So there's an incredible focus on working with good quality companies that insist on working with good quality parts and materials and people, so that you make sure that you know, you don't have any errors or issues. When you're dealing with aerospace, you're talking about a life and death situation. If you build a part that doesn't work properly, people could die.
Sure.
So.
Sure.
And if I can add to that as well, in addition to the quality side, it's also capacity. And capacity is the big thing that we're looking at now. As we're signing some of these major agreements and our business is growing tremendously, we're making sure that the partners that we have in the supply chain, that may be small machine houses or even medium-sized machine houses, that they can handle the upcoming demand. So it's very important for us to make sure we've got the right partners in the supply chain that can not only meet the quality requirements but also meet the demand. And we have a whole bunch of these partners lined up, so that, and we know we're working with them on their capacity, and hopefully we've got that really good relationship where they'll let us know, okay, that's all the orders we can handle for this period of time, and let us get these out before we take on more, and we have to be flexible to go to other suppliers.
Yeah, a small business program to help these shops grow. I mean, we've had places go from 10 to 20 people, and
Sure.
from 20 to 40, and
Right.
and so on, with the help of the state, and it's made a tremendous difference. I would think that if the supply chain is in Iowa or Nebraska or Carolina or whatever it might be, it's going to slow up the process. It's not going to be the same quality, because there seems to be an inherited quality from the workers of generations of literally aircraft workers, machinists in this state, that goes back several years.
Right.
Am I off base here? Or?
No, you're exactly right. Just like we talked about the importance of us being close to Pratt and Whitney and being close to Sikorsky, as well as some of our other customers, we want that same thing with our supply base, like Paul talked about, so that when one of our suppliers calls us with a question or concern, we can hop in a car and drive to Frazel Tool in Newington or Skillcraft in West Hartford or anybody in any of these other locations. And that's important for us, because you're right, if you're in Iowa or Nebraska or somebody else, it's a plane ride, or it's a week, there's so much delay in the information flow that it makes it more difficult.
Yeah, and Pratt and Sikorsky like being close by so they can see what's happening.
Absolutely.
Too.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a break, come back in a few seconds, so we'll come back to focus on the second half, quick break, so see you in a second. We're back to focus on the fourth. Again, I have Brian Montanari with me, who's the president and CEO of HABCO, and Paul Rocheleau, who is the chief of the financial officer. We talked a little about the process and the background and so on. Let's talk about the nitty-gritty, the things that you make, the things that you do there that are so important, particularly to Sikorsky, as I saw that day, but obviously there are others in the supply chain. But what are the types of things that you're building with Sikorsky?
Sure. We actually have 3 separate business units with what we call value streams within our business. The first we call support and test equipment, and that's the traditional bread and butter business that we've been doing for over 45 years. We're all products that support the aircraft or the engine when it's in for service. One product in particular that we build for the Navy version of the Sikorsky H-60 is a differential angle protractor, and this is a product that's been fielded throughout the entire Navy, where it allows the users to rig the blades of the helicopter out at sea. Right? Prior to using our device, it was very difficult to rig at sea because needing to check the angle of the blade to the rotor, and if the aircraft is at sea moving around with the old digital protractors, they couldn't get proper measurements. So we developed a product that it's proprietary technology where we can zero out the sensors. We put one sensor on the hub, one sensor on the blade, and it doesn't matter what the aircraft is doing, we can get the differential angle. And what it helped the Navy do is go from having 3 operators doing the process and having the aircraft having to be completely level and strapped down and nobody doing any other maintenance on it, to now being one person who can put it on the hub, on the rotor, on the blade. The PDA does all the calculations, and it doesn't matter what's going on with the aircraft. So that's one product. We have fuel integrity testers. We have so many different products. We have about 43 products that support the H-60, the Black Hawk, and the Black Hawk variants for Sikorsky and for the military. We have products that work on Bell, almost every rotary aircraft and every rotary OEM. And then also on the engine side, we have products that help help support and test seals and leakage on the GE engines, as well as almost every Pratt and Whitney engine. So that's our support and test equipment value stream. Another value stream that started back in 2012, we call asset management. And this is really adding technology to some of the legacy traditional business that we've done. And basically what we're doing is we're embedding RFID technology in basic hand tools. So we can put RFID, HF, RFID tags and tools, as well as UHF. And what this allows is the user, the maintainer, to be able to scan their badge, get access to the toolbox, take out the tool, and go and do the function. And now the technology in the tool is smart enough to realize that Paul Rocheleau took out this tool at 10:40 in the morning, and at the end of the day we can see that tool is still missing. And if we can't find that tool, there's also a UHF tag that we can put in this tool that we can go find it. We can use a UHF wand and go find the tool. And this is technology that's being adopted at OEMs and militaries, as well as carriers, airline carriers around the world, and it's helping reduce the amount of FOD, foreign object damage, or potential for foreign object damage, as well as tool accountability. And Sikorsky actually has the largest single-site implementation of this technology, or any technology similar to it. We also have a large implementation going on in Air New Zealand, and we just recently signed a contract through one of our distributors, one of our partners, that the Royal Australian Air Force is going to be outfitting their entire fleet with our technology. So this is an industry or a business for us that's going very well, some great opportunities, and it's a lot of fun as well. It's adding some technology to legacy.
I think when I was over there, you had a big shipment going out there in New Zealand.
We did.
Yes.
Now, the beauty of this piece, if a mechanic, somebody in the Navy is working on a plane and he forgets it, it could be somewhere in a wing or in a place of danger, and you can go and find that.
That's correct. That's
So
correct.
can you do something for doctors so that we can make sure all the pieces come out
Exactly.
of the operation?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of technology coming out that's being looked in the medical industry. And then our third value stream, our third business, we call integration, which is a play on words for innovative integration. And this is where we're really partnering with the OEMs and doing a lot of the supply chain efforts for them, and going off and procuring all the product, kitting it for them, adding technology to it if we can, if they want, but really becoming an extension of the OEMs. And this is an area that we're growing tremendously. It's great to have these OEMs look at us as an extension of their organization and not an arm's length supplier.
Yeah. One of the things that I think people still think of machine shops, machinery, as the old 1950s, 1960s. I worked at Pratt. It was filthy, dingy, dark. I mean, you could eat off the floor in your place. I mean, that was one of the cleanest buildings I think I've ever been in. We can't seem to get people to think about going into manufacturing. If I gave you a title today and I made you superintendent of schools, what would you be doing different as far as curriculum for junior high school or high school students? Are we missing something there?
Sure, you want to take it?
Well, I mean, as a finance guy, I would have more bookkeeping and accounting. I
Sure, I figured that.
I took 2 years of accounting in high school, and it really helped me tremendously. It helped me tremendously as I went through college. I had a foundation in accounting that a lot of my counterparts didn't have. And when I graduated from college, I started at Price Waterhouse in Hartford, and got my CPA, and the rest is history.
I'm a good example of this. Growing up, I wanted to work on the top floor of a skyscraper in a city. Never thought I would ever work in a factory, work in manufacturing. To me, it wasn't something that was exciting. And I started as a college intern at the wire mold company driving fork trucks, and that's where I first started getting into manufacturing. And I present at UConn every year. I taught adjunctively at Eastern for years on operations. And to me, that there is a missing link. Most people don't grow up thinking about careers in manufacturing. The only folks that, as you get older, that think about careers in manufacturing is typically on the engineering side. And there's a lot of fun in engineering, especially in the aerospace industry. But folks, we struggle with folks even on the purchasing, procurement, buyer planner side to the industrial engineering, the lean side, getting good lean folks, and then direct labor.
And quality.
And especially in quality, good point. So we're starting to partner with Wyndham Tech and some of the other schools where we can get students in and get them exposed to what manufacturing has to offer, because there are great careers, skilled and unskilled labor within manufacturing. So I agree completely. If we can be getting back into the middle schools, into the high schools, and into the colleges to do more education about the types of careers available would be very beneficial.
Yeah, it's. I don't think it's just being grown up in a different generation, but I mean, I had to take the shop courses and a mechanical drawing course. We had to take basic skill courses.
Sure.
I grew up in Nantucket. I mean, we didn't have any manufacturing, but there were things that you had to do. You have basic skills, and students here did the same thing. And somewhere in the process, I guess we decided everybody's going to go to college, so we've changed the curriculum, and we have left a lot of potential students out that don't want to go to college, and not going to go to college, and could be very, very good employees if given some of the early orientation into manufacturing. And I think that's an effort that we're trying to. I know it's an effort that we're trying to push. Let's get back to basics. Sometimes that's not so bad, and we recognized 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even maybe up to 10 years ago, that everybody isn't going to go to college.
Right.
And they're good paying jobs, they're clean, they're local. There's a long history. There's billions of dollars of contracts out there over the next 10 years waiting to be filled. I mean, we are in an excellent position to move forward. I'm afraid our biggest drawback is filling the positions to keep us moving forward. And that's the one constant from place to place, regardless of whether they're making parts for helicopters, airplanes, submarines, or train engines, or whatever it might be. Quality employees. And so we're working on apprentice programs and other programs like that. We can't use the term apprentice because of the legal definition apparently, but internship programs.
Sure.
So we hope to set that up, and I'm going to spend a lot of time this summer talking with school superintendents.
Sure.
And trying to get school superintendents to at least get a section, identify those that might be interested, and if they have the relationship with somebody like yourself where they can go in and see the job firsthand, I think we're going to see some changes. So you've done a wonderful job over there, tremendous asset for Glastonbury. Your building is one of the cleanest and the nicest I've been in. It's just, and the atmosphere of the work is, it's a great workplace. And there are a lot like that people just don't realize. So I congratulate both of you. You're going to do well. You do well now. And you'll be a permanent fixture in Glastonbury, which is tremendous for their tax base for job opportunities for families who live there, and thank you for doing that, and look forward to seeing you again. I'll be back to visit.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Senator.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
You're always welcome.
It's been great to have you watch. This is another example of what we're doing locally within the 4th District, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.